Nice. Ooh. Ooh. Oh, what?
And that, my friends, is exactly why I do what I do. Let's get into it. What's going on, everyone? So, as you can see here, my friend has had a chance to check out the rebrand that I'm working on with him. Check him out when you get a chance at Geek Dunn Ryte. If you want to see the full reaction, he's got the video up on his channel. Today, we're just going to be talking through Figma and Blender and how to merge the two, taking a 2D into a 3D file. All right, so last time I talked to you guys about developing a brand for one of my friends, and as you can see here, I've kind of fleshed it out pretty well. Basically cleaned up, what we had before, and then went into developing other elements that needed to exist within the brand. So basically shorten the top and the bottom here, and then drug this piece out on the corner here of the R to give it a little bit of panache. So here was what we had before on the top, and here's what we got after. Less of a skew, but still keeps it fresh enough, and clean. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring it into something and make it kind of look a little bit like this. So this is Blender. If you don't know or have never seen it, it's a 3D based program, and I'd like to create something that looks a little similar to this. So that's what we're going to be breaking down and getting into today. All right, so first thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new scene so we can start from scratch. I'm going to start all the way from scratch, so I'm going to get rid of some of these and make sure you understand from the beginning how I like to set up my settings. First thing that I do is I come to the top area here, change this to cycles because it's more of a real world engine. I'm working on Eevee. I'll get there. Not quite there yet, but I'll get there. And we're going to drop this down and go into GPU so I can use the actual GPU in my system. Let's go to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the render time 50 because lately the people over at Blender have really been getting a lot of support. And it seems like they come out with new stuff like every other day. It's amazing how fast the pace is going over there, but they're doing some really, really incredible work. Blender has come so far in like the past 6 months, it's almost unrecognizable. So one of the things that they did was OptiX denoising right in the renderer, so you don't have to have so many samples, and it just makes for lower render times all over. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come to my dimensions. I'm going to change this to a 4K dimension, so 4096 by 2160. And then I'm going to change the percentage down to 25%, something small so that it makes sense to render out really quick, and I can just take a look at it, in its finalized state. Don't worry about anything else right now. The only other place to really worry about is the output, so you can change where you want these files to be output whenever you render it. We're not going to be worrying about that in this particular setup. The next thing that I'm going to do, and I'm going to make sure is good to go, is in my passes, I want to make sure that the denoising data is turned on, because when we're compositing, we're going to need to use some of that denoising data to get exactly what it is set up and looking good in our compositor. So I'm going to turn that on, and then we can start, going right away. A couple of different controls that you need to kind of know. The num keypad, specifically for Blender, is something that I love to use because they have shortcuts. So 7 is top, 1 is front, and 3 is side view. All right. Not going to go over those. I'm just going to continue to use it. So when you see it shifting, you'll know what it is. Just keep your eye in the top right-hand corner of the screen. All right. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add another area here, and you just click in the top corner and drag it out. You can do it from the bottom corner too. And I just like to have 3 different screen layouts for different reasons. I like to have different camera angles and different views for different things, and it's just a good way to kind of keep track of things. Now that we have our setup, I'm going to come in here, I'm going to click Shift A to add a mesh. Anything you want to add in Blender, you go to Shift A. I'm going to scale it up by hitting S, and then just take it up just a little bit. Let's go to about right here. I'm going to go to the edit view, and when you move around in Blender, if you middle click your mouse wheel should have a button in it. Middle click it, you can pan around and zoom. Holding shift moves it around like this, so you can shift around in the angles this way, and then, you know, panning and moving around in this angle is without shift. I'm gonna hit the tab key to go into the edit mode. I'm gonna change it to edge, so I can just select just the edge. And I'm gonna hit E to extrude this up a little bit. Now you can see I can move it any which way I want. I'm gonna hit Z to lock it to the Z angle, so it just goes straight up from here. All right, I'm going to grab this edge and I'm gonna hit G because I don't want to extrude it. It already exists. I just want to make it longer, and then Y to go along the Y axis, just to give me a little bit of space to kind of work with. Next, I'm going to hit Tab to get out of edit mode, and I'm going to hit S and X to scale it widthwise. Give me a little width here. And then the next thing that I need to do is export my item from Figma. So what we want to do and how we do that is you come in here, you select the icon that you want. Just make sure that the icon is flattened all the way down. I'll do a quick layout for how to do that. So I'm going to take this group here, drag it out. If you remember back in the other video, I had these as separate objects. What we want to do is join them. And the way we do, you could hit Control E to like flatten it, but it keeps them in this state. We want to actually join this with the background. So we're going to select both of them. Going to come up here to these two boxes, and we're going to hit Union Selection, and that basically will join them together as one. And then you can either flatten it, but this is already flat, and then you want to export it. So to export it, you hit this plus key over here, you hit SVG, and then export it where you want. I've already exported it, so I'm just going to import it in Blender. I'm going to go to File, Import, and then choose SVG. Bring it over here. I'm going to choose my G icon from Blender, and it may look like it didn't import, but it actually did. It's just way up under this thing. So just something to keep in mind when you're importing. Let me go ahead and move this up a little bit. So I'm going to go G to grab it. Oop. Let's make sure it's selected. G to grab it, and then Z, and we're going to move it up a little bit. And then for future reference, we're just going to grab this and go G and Z and move this down so it's below the grid line. So anything else we export will be on top. Next, we want to go to a top view. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and I want to move this to the point of origin. And the way we do that is right click it and then go set origin and geometry to origin. And that will make sure it's right smack dab in the center. We're going to hit R to rotate, and then X because we want to rotate along the X axis. Rotate it, and here we go. And we've got a little icon here and everything like this. A few things to keep in mind whenever bringing things in is the scale of it. So the way you check the scale is coming in here and looking. Right now the scale is set to 1, but we're going to increase this in just a few minutes. Now, the next thing that we want to do, we want to extrude this, and there's several ways to do it. One way is by adding modifiers. So if you go to modifier and hit solidify, I now have this thing that I can play around with the thickness of and kind of do like this. And this is cool and everything, but playing around with the settings inside of the modifier didn't allow me to bevel the way I wanted it to. So I'm not going to do it this way. I'm going to do it the bevel way. The way I'm going to do this, I'm going to, let me go ahead and name this. Call this G-icon curve. And then I'm going to duplicate it by hitting Shift D and then enter. And then I'm going to rename this G-icon mesh, because we're going to turn it into a mesh in just a second. I'm going to turn everything off. If you don't have all of these, you might just have the eye icon. Just drop this down and you can turn on your toggles here. All right, next what we're going to do is I'm going to extrude this. And the way we want to do this first is go into the faces, make it a face. So the way we do this, right click, convert to mesh, then we're going to hit tab, and now you're going to see all of the faces. Now it's going to bring it in as separate faces. You can select it by doing the face tool to see all the different faces. I want to merge all of this stuff together. So I'm going to hit A to select all the faces, and then I'm going to hit F to make it one face. So now whenever I want to, I'll hit E, and it will allow me to extrude along this angle here. All right, so looking pretty good. Next thing I want to do is I actually do want to create a bevel for this. So I'm going to select the front face, and then I'm going to hit Control B to add the bevel in. All right, as you can see, it's kind of extruding things out a bit. I don't want too much of a bevel. I just want enough to kind of make it thick enough to do what I want it to do. And then I want to come in here and start cleaning things up a bit. So I'm going to reselect this. I'm going to go to the vertices so I can see the vertices that are giving me some trouble. I'm going to select this top vertice, and then I'm going to kind of zoom in and move it down a bit. I need to shift out just a bit more. It's giving me some problems here. All right. I'm going to hit 1 to go to the front view, and then I'm going to grab G, and then just shift it down so that it doesn't stick out. I'm going to do the same thing for the bottom one. Hit 1, G, and then move it in ever so slightly. Hit tab, and then when we come out here, now you can see this really, really nice beveled edge. Looks really good. All right, next thing we need to do is we need to get some color in here and some lights. So first thing we're gonna do, let's go ahead and add color to the object so that it doesn't just look like an abyss. So just gonna go ahead and add white to it for now so we can see that. I am going to scale this object up a little bit. Let's scale it up to 3 just to give it a little bit of size. Let's go to 3 here. Close enough. And then next thing I want to do is I want to get some light in here. So the way that you look at things in Blender is you need to have a camera. Let's go ahead and add a camera first. So I'm going to hit Shift A, get my camera. It's there, but it's just under there. So we're going to hit G, Z, move the camera up, and then R, X to rotate it on the X axis, hit 90 degrees so that it will point where you want it to. And then G to kind of move it in place where you would like it to be. All right. Now to look through this camera, you hit 0 and it will put you into the camera view. So I'm going to roll over this. As you can see up here at the top, you can see which window you're over. I'm going to hit 0 so I can always be in this view, and I can move this camera around by selecting it and shifting it around so I can get the look that I want. Perfect. So in order to look at something in render view, you hit Z or hold Z over the window frame you're on, and then just go up to rendered view. Nothing. The reason it's not there is because we don't actually have any lights in this. There's a couple of ways to add lights. If you wanted to add a background, you could hit new background, and now you can see a little semblance of something. I don't really need anything in there, so I'm just going to hit 0 there. But I actually want to get a light in here. So first thing I'm going to do, go back to the top view, Shift A, add a light. We're going to make it an area light. And oh man, that looks actually kind of cool. We're going to move this up, so GZ, and there we go. So I'm gonna zoom in over here a little bit so I get a little bit of this. If you hit the T, you know, you can get this stuff to go away, just to let you know that if you wanted to see that. Also, if you don't want to see anything in this view, like I'm gonna roll over here, go 0 and keep this in solid mode, but I may not want to see all the cameras and all the null objects and stuff like that and clear it up. You can just hit this show overlays button and it will take it away. Cool. All right, next thing I want to do is I want to track the light to the object. I want to make sure that wherever I move my light, it's pointing at the object. There's a couple of ways to do this, but I'm going to show you a really quick and easy way that I like to do things. Top view, Shift A, go into null, or empty rather, and then get a sphere. So as you can see, it's down at the bottom. We want this to be like smack dab in the middle. So I'm going to go GZ, and I'm going to shift it to where it's up a little bit. And in the middle, I'm looking over here to gauge. And I also want that to be at the front because that's also going to serve as the focus point too. You can do all cool and crazy things with the null. But the way to track this is we want to name this. We'll say object null. And then I'm going to select my light. I'm going to go to the object constraints, go to track 2, and I'm going to search for OBJ, and it comes up. I'm going to select this and hit enter. And then whenever I move this object around, I'm going to hit G. It's always pointing at that particular point area, you know? So I'm going to scale this down first so it's not so big. And then I'm going to go G and move it over a little bit. And then I'm going to turn the light down a bit. The reason why you want things smaller in your preview is because you don't have to have as much light. Like I can just turn this up just a little bit and it can light the whole scene. If you didn't, you would have to like crank these lights a whole bunch. So I'm going to go to 1 or 2 watts. And then I'm going to shift this off to the side a bit. So I'm getting a one-sided light here. And then we're going to get other lights in the scene to kind of overpower the light and stuff like that. Next thing we want to do is track the camera to the object as well. That's kind of important. So same thing, object constraint, track 2, type in OBJ. I wish I could type today. And now the camera is tracking to that object as well. I like to come from lower camera angles because it kind of gives it like a nice look and feel. So I'm going to hit G and then Z and shift this camera angle down. And then I'm going to go GY to move it back a little bit. Yeah. So it gives a nice preview. Let's see what this looks like. I'm going to hit F12 and render it really quick. Yeah, that looks really, really dope. Next thing we're going to do is we want to kind of get some color into this, and I also want the backdrop to curve a bit to give a little bit more of a, I don't know, like a smoother gradient feel instead of it being sharp like this. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to my object modifiers, and we're going to bevel this. As you can see, it added a bevel angle over here. I'm going to increase the segments. I'm going to right click this and shade it smooth so that it looks smooth, but I just want to get rid of like these little jagged kind of looks with however many segments I can get in there to do that. Not too many, just enough to smooth out that edge. Cool. And then I'm going to increase the size of the bevel. So increasing the amount really makes that bevel go like that. So you can get some really cool looks this way. But I just want to do it just enough to give it, you know, some smooth edge. Next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to come to the top view. I'm going to go Shift A. I'm going to add in a point light coming from the bottom. GZ to move it up. And then I want to shift the point light over a bit. So I'm just going to hit G just to grab it and shift it to the edge here. I'm going to duplicate this light by hitting Shift D, move it over. Matter of fact, I'll lock it to the X-axis so it doesn't go anywhere. Put it in same kind of vicinity there. And you saw that it duplicated it and changed the name. I want it to have the same name. So I'm going to drop this down and go to 0.4. We'll call this BG lights. So now when I change these lights, let's get a color. So let's get the actual backdrop color from Figma. Let's come over here. I want to get this as my backdrop. So I'm going to select this, go back to Blender, go to my materials. I want to add a new material. I'm going to select the base color and I want to make sure this hex is chosen. You might have RGB, but we're going to go to hex and we're going to paste this in here to get that color. Super dark, as you can see, but it's supposed to be. So now we can start cranking the wattage up a bit on our point lights to get it. To add in a little bit of pop of color, I'm going to move this, shift this into the blue hue a little, just to get it. I don't know why that did that. We don't want it looking like this. I thought I named these point lights. I guess it didn't take. So I'm going to say BG lighting, just to ensure that that's doing what it needs to do. Let's go type in BG lighting. I did name it and it took it away for whatever reason. I don't know why that is. So now when I adjust both of them, it's adjusting them around the same. Cool. Next thing we want to do is we want to get the color popping on this bad boy. So I want to go back to Figma and get this bluish color. Same process. Go back to Blender and we are going to select the base color, go to the hex value, paste it in, and we get a crash. Back from the dead again. I'm going to make sure that I save this file so we do what we need to do. This is a good way to segue into making sure that your preferences are set up correctly. So if you go to Edit, Preferences, and then look at your Save and Load settings, make sure Autosave is ticked on. Moving on, let me go ahead and get my render view back so I can see what's going on here. And we were in the middle of adding a color to this thing. Hex view, paste it in, hit enter, and we get our color. Thank God. All right, so we're going to move in just to get a nice little preview there. I want to highlight the back angle of this because I'm not getting that beautiful, nice shape. All I see is just the outer shape here. So I'm going to add another light. Go to the top view. I'm going to go Shift A. I'm going to add in a spotlight. GZ to move it up. And I'm going to create another empty because I want it to hit the back, not the front of the object. So Shift A, going to add an empty, plain axis is this time. GZ to move it up. And we want it to be smack dab in the center there. And then I want to move it along the Y axis to hit that back preview. All right, we're going to name this OBJ back. Save. Then we're going to come in here and select the light. We're going to damp track that or track that to OBJ back, hit enter, and now we should be tracking along the back of this. You can see the light working. So now I just need to get it positioned in the right spot. Another cool thing that you can do is really, start working with setting what objects are parented to other objects. So I want to parent this and this to this null. So I'm going to select all of them by holding Shift and selecting one at a time. And Blender recognizes order, so it's very important that the last one in the order is the one that you want to be the parent. So I'm going to select this, and then select the parent, hit Control P, and hit Object. So now whenever I want to shift this stuff, I can just select just the parent. I'm going to go GY because I want to move this a little bit forward. And as you can see, the lights and stuff are following where this is. Now I'm going to have to move my other light here, but that's kind of how I want it. Gonna move this back a bit, GY, shift it back, and we're gonna grow this, tab, select the edge, and then go GY, shift that back some more. All right, tab to exit. Let's get our light back where it should be. So GY, just close enough to get that light pinging like we want to. And then we want this light to hit how it needs to. So let's go from a corner view, G, just grab this over, and then I want to move it down a bit so that the cone is shining like it needs to. Yeah, I think that's going to do what it needs to do. Come to the light settings. We're going to crank this up to maybe 500. Yeah. So as you can see, if I zoom in here, I can really see that light picking up. There's shadows and stuff on the floor. You can do different things with the spotlight. I'm going to change the radius a bit so it spreads a little bit more. And then you can also change the size of what the angle looks like. So I'm going to change the size just a little bit, and then come from an even lower angle because I don't really want it hitting the ground. You can also change the cone size down. So I'm going to angle it down just a bit. And then I'm going to say G and Z to really get in there. Top view, move it just a little bit closer and hitting that angle exactly how I want. Yeah. And I'm going to shift, duplicate this, move this over here. Let's get this original and let's call this BG OBJ spot back. We will set this to the same thing, OBJ spot back. And so now we have two of these lights hitting, and we're getting some over here and some from the other angle over there. Let's crank this up to 1,000 just to give that nice highlight. And then I'm going to change the angle of this left one. So I'm going to grab this and move it out just a bit more. You really got to kind of play around with it to get it doing exactly what you want it to do. Yeah, that's going to make for some really cool aesthetics. Cool beans. Let's make this a little bit greener because I feel like it will add like a sense of flashy cool. And there we go. Yeah, that's looking really good. Gonna increase this keeps changing. I don't know why this keeps changing. Let's go BG, oops. Search for BG lighting. I'm gonna save it just in case. And I'm gonna increase the wattage a bit on the backdrop. Yep. Other cool things that we can do to kind of really make this pop is I could shift duplicate this, bring it up a little bit, maybe in the front like so, and then make this the same color as the object itself. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to grab this color and then go to my light that I just created and hit the color, V, select it, and then crank up the power a bit to really get that to feel like it's just glowing. You know, life is about color, so you want to make sure that your colors are popping like they need to, and you definitely need the lights to be colored as well as the object itself to really give it the ambiance that you want. And that's basically it, man. There's some other cool tricks that I can show you, like getting some glow. If you go to the compositing nodes, you can add some really cool compositing things in here to really make it pop. But I think I'll save that for next time. Well, I hope you guys are having as much fun as I am with this brand refresh. And let a boy know what you think down in the comments below. Keep it up, and I'll catch you later.